Welcome back to another episode of The Best of the Mess. I am one of your hosts, Alex Chidiak, and I'm joined by the other host, Joshua Smith. Now, Josh, finally, this episode is all about you.
Is it though?
I hope so, because I keep going on tangents and I want to hear about your life. We haven't had a catch up in a little bit now. So it's been there's been a lot of things that have happened, and I would like to hear about what is happening for you personally, business-wise, spiritually, everything. So, what phase of life are you currently in, my friend?
I feel like I feel like an emerging chrysalis phase of life. That's what I feel like.
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Of
For
course I
those
can.
who don't know much about that, please elaborate.
Are you talking about yourself, Alex?
Nope, I definitely know. I use the word all the time.
Okay, great. I feel like that's the first time I've used that word in a very long time. But you asked me
Okay.
what my feelings on where I'm at is, and it would be that there'd be emerging chrysalis or emerging from a chrysalis, however you wish to understand
Yeah.
that. There's been a lot of things happening in the. I kind of merge everything all into one, so I don't think like
Mhm.
business, personal life, whatever. It's all kind of like it's just one existence. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like it's all one existence. And we can talk about the different facets of existence and different things where I invest my energy and time. I think that'll be good. Um, so I've just completed a book
Oh,
for the second time. And this will lead us
okay.
into the more conversations, of course. But I've just completed reading. I've just finished reading Discipline is Destiny by Ryan Holiday. Now, this is the second book in his Stoic Virtues series, which there are 4 books that he is going to write. He's just completed his third one. The first one is called Courage is Calling, obviously about courage. The second one is Discipline is Destiny, obviously about discipline, and more so about self-discipline and how we present ourselves in our environment and how we can stay true to who we are through maintaining control of our emotional states and maintaining control of what our outputs are. And the third one he's just released within the last month or two, I believe. And I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called, but I'm going to get that as well because I love Ryan Holiday's writing. And the reason I tell you this is because I read books that pertain to certain facets of my life I wish to obviously feed into or learn about or understand a bit more. And I've been feeling this year my discipline has not been at the level it was last year.
Okay.
2023 was a very disciplined year for me, and I managed to do a lot of things internally that I have probably never done before. Well, that I have never done before, be clear. And I really felt great doing them. And I really felt great challenging myself to do them. And I really felt great becoming that person over that year
Mhm.
that I had become. Now, that's not to say I've reverted back to 2022, Josh. It's just to say that the things that I was doing from a very scheduled, very disciplined way, such as, training and how often I was training, what I was doing with training, and how much I was managing sort of my outputs and my reading, and these are more inputs like my reading and my podcast listening and those kinds of things have slipped away. The reason I've slipped away is because other things have slipped in, and those things are what you would call like the business side of things. A lot of stuff has happened from the business perspective in regards to growth and development, which I could not have been able to do had I not had the year from last year. So that's what I mean. Like it's just a continuous evolution. But I'm in a phase of, going through that and basically reconfiguring myself to get back into what I really enjoyed doing last year, which was the trainings that I was doing, which was the podcast listening or the music or the books that I was reading and listening to. You know, last year I completed 99,000 minutes of podcasts, I believe, over the year. It might have been a bit less. It might have been less than that, but I'm pretty sure it was close to 99,000 minutes of listening. And I know at this stage of the year, I'm nowhere near that. You know, I completed 251 workouts because I would tick off days that I would do them. Haven't done that this year. So I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things with that. And I thought, you know what's going to be cool? I'm going to read Discipline is Destiny again to just get me back on that. Like, just give me a little, like, it's like a little pep talk. Like, right on holidays, just like, hey, Joshy, here's what you got to do. So that's what I'm doing. So I've just finished that. And I can highly recommend it to anyone wanting a very simple, very easy read. It's a small book and it's a relatively thin book. Have you read it?
It sounds really familiar, and I keep looking up at like the bookshelf, and I'm trying to find it, but I can't find it. So maybe I haven't read it. But I do love Ryan Holiday. Like I've got the Daily Stoic, so I'm very familiar with his work, and I used to write little, like I'd read the books and then take notes in like another little book, and so I can always go back on it. So I'll need to find my little other book. But brilliant. Yeah, I mean, what were the thing? Like, what do you think the reason is that you kind of fell off that?
I honestly think there's two main. So the train I was on mentally was disrupted January. Just because like December, Jan is that time period where everything kind of just hits the skids, and you know what you're doing sort of during the day is different to what you do during the year. You're not in your routines anymore because you're going out visiting people on holidays, taking time off. You know, there's a lot more events, there's a lot more eating, there's a lot less time to be in that routine of, okay, I get up, I do this, here's what my day looks like, I go to bed, I repeat, you know. And so that kind of disrupted things a little bit in December, Jan, which was fine. I was like, all right, cool. Once this period kind of moves through, I can actually get back onto that myself. And then end of January, around the 18th of January, things changed completely from a business perspective. And obviously voluntary, like things just don't just happen. You respond to things that happen, and we responded in a way that I think is very positive for what we to do. And I knew that accepting and doing what we did, which I can tell you about, accepting and doing what we did was going to be beneficial for everyone involved. So when I think of decisions and when I tend to think of outcomes of decisions, I want to have three winners, right? And basically 3 parties, 3 winners. So for example, with the business decision that came up, it was like, cool, does the business win? You know, is this going to be successful for what we want to do? Is it going to be successful for our clientele? And then is it going to be successful for our staff and people that are involved? You know, so it's 3 different kind of areas. Now, the answer to all 3 was yes. And I was like, if they're all 3 yeses, then we dive headfirst into it. But what that did mean is that now the intensity of my days and the focus that I had to put on the sort of the work scheduling and the business side of things was a lot more intense, you know. And so have I told you anything about what happened in sort of Jan, Feb? I don't know if I've spoken on it.
I don't think you have spoken on it. So I think it's time. It is now time for you to speak on it.
It's now the end of May, and I've finally been able to process what's happened. Gosh. So context. Martaz Performance Group is an evolution. That's where we are currently. That's the business name. That's my business name. That is an evolution of what we've been doing previously. So previously, I started as a personal trainer, then ended up going through some group stuff, then ended up getting a gym. And the gym we had was basically, when I started, I called it Martaz Health and Fitness because that's what we were focusing on, health and fitness. Then I had the vision that, cool, we're getting people that are coming in that are athletic, obviously yourself included, you know, and they're pushing themselves every day. They're doing the team stuff and they're doing group stuff and what it may be, and they're getting injured. And what I found was that the communication between myself as a coach and then Allied Health that works helping with our athletes and our populations and our clientele wasn't the best communication. And so I thought, cool, well, in order to ensure the best for our clientele, why don't I just set up a physio clinic, right? And so then you know this story, but might be new to people. And then so basically from that, that started in 2019. It was really scattered, really sort of like basic kind of, work for the first couple of years. Obviously 2019 we started that, 2020, 2021 COVID years. Then the business partner I started that with left in sort of, I think it was in 21, getting 22. And then one of my friends who I'd met is a physio through some sporting stuff I'd done. I had a chat with him about, I'm looking to hire some new grads. Would you be happy to be a mentor? Because he's just an absolute wizard with what he can do. Is phenomenal. And he was, oh yeah, that sounds like a great idea, whatever. And then about a month later, he came back to me and said, oh, have you found any new grads? And I said, I haven't found anyone. He said, okay, cool. I'd like to come work for you. Would you have me on board? And I was like, absolutely. Right, of course I would. And then, and so he started, I think it was about 2022, maybe early 2022. And then he was doing work on Saturdays when people would book in. So it wasn't every Saturday, and it might be between 1 and 4 sessions on a Saturday morning. We're only open, until about 10:30 a.m. At that time, he would do a bit later if people needed to. And that's kind of how it was rolling 2022 through to the end of sort of 2023. Now, what had happened in the meantime, him and his wife had another baby, or she was pregnant, and the baby was due in October 2023. Cool. Baby came October 2023. Lovely. What that meant, he then took time off from the gym. And so like from my time, so he was still working at his other place. And we just had no physios for the time being, obviously still had the clinic space and whatnot. And I just kind of like, cool, let me know when you want to come back, like how we're going to bring you back in, like what that looks like for you. Obviously you deal with your family stuff and sort that out. And once that's all good, then we'll get onto it. In the meantime, I'm also going to go hire someone who he's also said he's happy to mentor, because he's been around now. He's happy to mentor them and basically bring them into the physio side of things. He's been doing this for like 10 years now, so he's like, cool, get a new grad, bring them in, and then we can go from there. So I kind of started looking, but I kind of didn't. I just mentioned it to a few people, like, oh, we're going to be looking for physios, and we want people who fit the vibe. The vibe of the space is very precious to me. And we've had people before who don't fit the vibe, but I kind of at that stage, I tried to make them fit and they never really fit. And there's always this like sort of conflict internally for me and then for them. And then I was just kind of like, it doesn't work. Okay. So I was like, someone with the vibe. Anyway, I'm talking fast. I want to get through to shit. Anyway, so from sort of October-ish, we had one, he was off, and then it would have been November. One of my coaches, Beck, she said to me, oh, I was kicking the footy with one of the girls that I play with. Now she plays for West Adelaide Sandful, SANFL footy team, like the VFL over if you're listening in Victoria. And she was like, I was kicking the footy with one of the girls who just happened to mention that she's a new grad physio. She's looking for work. And I said, what's her vibe like? She goes, fantastic. I said, let's have a little chit chat. Let's have a chin wag. So anyway, so that was in, I first met up with her, I think it was the end of December. It could have been early Jan. I think it was the end of December was our first sort of meeting. She came in the gym, super casual, just have a chat. Here's the space. Here's me. This is what we got the team wise. Her vibe, she walked in, the vibe was just on point. I was like, your vibe is sick, right? Your vibe is sick. I love it. And obviously his skills are down here because she's just from new grad, but she's willing to learn. And so when I'm looking at hiring staff, I want vibe number one. Are you willing to learn number two? And top two, tick. So they were brilliant. So this was now December, Jan, and we basically come to an agreement that she's happy to come on board. She was looking at other clinics, but decided that she liked us because we weren't so clinical. We're a space, but she's like, it's not as clinical. It's not as dry. It's not as like business, just get people in, pump them through. Actually, our three C's of the business, as in our three sort of like guiding principles, is connection first and foremost, community second, and then coaching. Now that's coaching in the gym and also physio. So in that order. And so she loved that. She said, yep, cool. I want to come on board. And I was like, great. And so what had happened now from sort of January onwards, we worked out when she was going to start. Her start date was going to be 16th of Feb. Lovely, beautiful, all sorted. And obviously in the background, the guy was sort of on paternity leave. No problems. Let me know when to come back. We're going to onboard the other one. Life's all good. Great. Chilling. Then February happened. And it would have been February the 9th, I reckon, because it was exactly a week before a new grad was starting, right? Now, her name's Paris. And then the senior physio, his name's Lewis. Okay. So in that week, Lewis called me up. Send me a text message, and Lewis doesn't text. Send me a text message, and he said, hey, could we have a chat about coming back to work? And I was like, absolutely. This was on a Tuesday. Paris was starting the next Tuesday. And he said, yep. I said, yep, absolutely. Let's catch up, whenever you're ready. And he goes, tomorrow. And I was like, okay. Right. So at this stage, I know that Paris is starting next Tuesday. And what I've been doing in the background was a lot of preparation work for bringing her on board, integrating her into the community, getting to know people around the gym space, what it's going to look like from an employment perspective, what it's going to look like from a practice perspective, how I'm going to keep her up to date with her like clinical practice. Like I can't mentor because I'm not a physio, but how we're going to keep her skills up, how we're going to keep her like basically chugging along, developing whilst integrating herself into the gym space and everything that comes with that. Fun stuff. And so had the meeting on the Wednesday with Lewis, and he said, I've just left my other place, the full-time clinic he was at, and I'm ready to start whenever you need me. And ideally, I'd like to start this week if we can. And I said, when this week? He's like, tomorrow if you want me.
Oh, Lewis.
So whilst we're sitting at this meeting, I didn't know what this was going to be about, like coming back to work. He wanted to said, I don't want to come back to work. And I was kind of like, maybe he's going to say that. I don't know. And when he said that, I paused like this. Right. And I thought of all the things that I was going to have to do. Yeah. And I love this bloke. I love him. I love him to bits. And I was like, absolutely, you can start tomorrow. Let's do whatever we need to do to make it happen. Now, what we needed to do was basically get everything sorted, like get him on board the website and get him up to date. So obviously he was just doing Saturdays, had to open up his times. He was keen to do during the week stuff. He was like, I'm really keen to sort of get involved and go more hands-on. He's always wanted to be a lot more hands-on, but he's never really had the capacity to do it, And so, so he let me know, and I was like, a little bit of extra warning would have been great, but he goes, this is him. He's a wizard with the clinic. And so now, Alex, I've gone from having 0 physios to 2 physios in less than 7 days. I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh shit, there's some shit that needs to be done now. So 16th of Feb. Okay, what happened just before then? So I had prepared my days to be ready for Paris to come on board, and I'd filled my days up. Obviously, we were doing our episodes, there was editing to do with that. We were still running the gym space, there's stuff to do with that. We're in preseason for the soccer club that I work with and I'm partnered with. There's stuff to do for that. And so there really wasn't flexibility in the hours I had in the day to do what I needed to do to onboard Lewis as well as Paris for the times that they needed. Right. So what I did, I was like, well, I can't do it in these hours, but I can do it in these hours. Right. So for about, I think it was about 4 or 5 days, like that 4 or 5 days between meeting and them starting, I was getting up, I think it was about 3:15 in the morning. And normally I would get up about 4:30, right? And it gave me an extra hour, so 2 hours before I actually had to be at the gym, to get some of the stuff done. And I just was manic, right? Like I've got a whiteboard just over there, and that was like, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done, this needs to be done. How am I going to do this? How to make this happen? You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff, a lot of moving parts. Okay. And then that's just to do the back end stuff. And then there was onboarding once they'd started, so once they come back in, Lewis was a bit easier to bring on board to the community. And we just had to say, like, he's open more hours now. Here's the link, bookings link, and all that kind of stuff. There's a bit of stuff to focus on in regards to how we develop the clinic, how we had to change that. But with Paris, there's a lot more like we had to film introductions to her, so our community got to know who she was, so they can feel connected to her. She can feel connected with where we're at. There's integration with staff into our staffing systems, our communication systems, our internal stuff. There's just a lot. And so this whiteboard was just like Rain Man, just and we did it. Like we did it. It took probably 2 months to really get the wheels spinning with things and working pretty smoothly. Now we're not there by no means. We're not there. Not where I want to see it, the integration, because the idea is the integration between the gym and the training space and the physio space has to be seamless. Hence why I own both, because I can see the systems on both. The discrepancy that usually occurs and the disconnect that occurs is there's no communication, and the systems are different between physios and gyms, and the gyms want to be physios and the physios want to be gyms. And I'm just like, nah, there has to be this. And so bringing Paris on board and then working out how that integration works, we had to upskill coaching staff to understand what physios were saying when they were sending through, so-and-so can't do this or can do this. Here's how to change their programs, whatever. They would then send that to our, the physios would send it to our coaching staff. Coaching staff then have to accept that and understand what it means and then update the programs. And then we've got to communicate to the client. There's this whole kind of system that goes with it, which is really great, by the way. And so so that's all rolling, right? Then we got to the point, it was probably about a month ago now. So maybe it would have been beginning of April, maybe beginning to middle April. Let's go around there, where we got to the point where we didn't have enough room for both, or we didn't have enough room, didn't have enough organization for both Lewis and Paris to be treating people at the same time. Because we only had one physio bed, one room.
Yeah.
So what I did and what we did is we looked at our gym space, and I like things spread out. I like things even. I like things nice and considered. Are you okay over there?
I'm good. It sounded like something just crashed outside, so we'll keep going.
Okay. As long as you're all right. If you need help, just blink a couple of times.
Good.
Okay. And so I like the space open. I like the space organized. It's clean. It's neat. It's ordered, right? Because within that order, we can then create the chaos of training. And so we've looked at the space and gone, we need to create and we need to somehow salvage another 9 square meters of space for us to put another physio bed in and have dividers up and have the privacy and whatnot. So we can have 2 physio spaces for our 2 physios who are now on board. And they were great working with each other and how they would integrate, and Lewis would mentor Paris in the start in the clinic. It was incredible. And so now we're like, cool, Paris is ready to be able to start seeing people and start treating people. We need to get another space. So we had to kind of like Tetris the gym, right? And and open up 3 meters by 3 meters in the back corner to put we ended up putting some of the IKEA shelves in there, new physio bed. We had to buy that. And then we had to get basically like a desk and office works, everything that goes with an office space, right? And the one stipulation that I had was that it cannot change the vibe of the space. It has to be organized. It has to be ordered. There can be no feeling of chaos when you come in. So we have to have another physio room. So we did that. So did that. And it's really great. The feedback we've had from that has been really positive, really, really positive. And the feedback that I have wanted and that we have received independently without any, asking for it, is that people come in and they go, it looks like it's always been there. Like there's been no change. We've still got all the same equipment. We didn't throw anything out, didn't move anything. We moved stuff, but not significantly. And it all still flows very well. And now we've got another physio room. So I'm like, sweet. That's exactly what I wanted. So, so that's all going well, which is lovely. And seeing everyone integrate and the connections with the staff is phenomenal. Because we've also got massage on board as well. And that uses obviously the physio beds that aren't being utilized at sort of different times as well. We've got the space running in a way that I really enjoy seeing. And from a integration perspective, the physio, the massage and the training or whatever, it's all working really well. And our clients are getting some fantastic sort of outcomes from it. They're like, this is exactly how it should be. If a client goes and sees a physio and the physio thinks they need massage, they tell our massage therapist. And then if the massage therapist thinks they need some more strength, they tell our coaches. And then everything is just this one holistic kind of idea, So I'm really proud of what we've done. I'm really, really proud of that. But it was manic. So that's been happening. That's been happening.
So just that little bit's been happening.
Just a little bit.
That sounds like a lot to get sorted in a very short amount of time. So
it's a good thing I'm very process driven. It's a good thing I'm very process driven. And I have a big whiteboard.
Yes, the big whiteboard helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was all that. In the midst of that, I went away for a week, right? As you know, I went to Bali. I was away there, and that was lovely. We definitely needed the time away. And then that's pretty much where the focus has been. There's always stuff happening, and there's always stuff going on. And so at the moment where we are now is we're designing and we're developing a couple of proposals for some teams that are interested in our integrated approach to physio and training. And we're going to be sending them up very soon. We only send proposals to teams teams and clubs and, players that are interested. We won't really cold call heaps of people and then just be like, oh, whatever. It's only if they're interested. And so we've had a couple of discussions and obviously that makes sense. We're not going to send proposals to people not interested. And it's cool. It's really, really cool to see people really get around what we're wanting to bring into the rehab and training spaces. It's really nice to see.
Yep.
It's been done a little bit before, and I've seen it done well a couple of times before. And it's something that I really wanted to bring to Adelaide.
Yep.
Because I don't think it's done well here. In that regard. And I honestly don't think it's done well for most women sport here. And that's a overstatement. It's not well at all. The AFL clubs do a good job, Port and Crows. I do respect what they do. I do hear a bit about what they do. And also the Thunderbirds as well. I've heard good stuff about them. But across the other lower levels and whatnot, there's not really a lot of this stuff. So it's good. It's really nice. It's really nice to see and get that feedback, And then, so the other things that we're doing as well, we're also developing a website. I'm getting that sorted. Yep. So for the last 15 years, I have not had a website.
Damn.
And if I have had one, it hasn't been functioning. So I thought, what? We should get a website.
Yeah, that's the next step. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard these things are good. I've heard these things help if we have them. So we're going to get one. So
I feel like people literally, that's the first thing people would get if they're starting a business. They're like, oh, we need a website, and they'll get that straight away. You've gone 15 years.
Yeah.
You have a pretty successful business, I would say. So
I mean, we've got 10 staff now. And I thought, you know what, guys? We need a website. we need a website. So, so we're getting a website, and what we had to do was had to get the systems integrated first. Had to see how things functioned. This is my view, how things function before I would then put it out to the wider community. And to those who may not know us or may not know what we're about, you know, you might see our stuff on social media, or you might know any of our staff or clientele individually, but doesn't really give you the vibe of what happens, you know, and how we go about doing things. And we've actually had some really good feedback from one of our new clients lately. She's come in. She literally walked in off the street. She goes, I just moved here from Sydney, and I was looking for a physio, and I looked physios in the area that are walking distance, and I saw this one, you know, so you got available. And I really like the vibe of this place, and I really enjoy being in here. And this was in the first sort of 2 weeks of it. And I was like, oh, this is really lovely to hear. You know, we can provide you training, whatever. So she's jumped on board with our training and stuff. And then just some feedback from her has been incredible, you know, because she's really come into it without knowing anything about us, and really jumped on board with what we offer. You know, she's had physiotherapy, she's had our training, and she's going through our training and whatnot, and seeing how we do things. And it's really, for me, it's really nice because I'm not there for a lot of it. And the test is, can we provide the same service to our clientele when I'm not there? And our clients are getting the integrations that they deserve, they do deserve, that are planned without me being there. And seeing that now, which is cool. Obviously, I'm still there guiding stuff. We've still got operations to do, but it's really, really cool to see. So that's where I invest a lot of my time. A lot of my time is spent there at the moment, you know, and it's really interesting because I do have chats with people when they talk about work and working, and, you know, like you said at the start, like, you know, how you think about business and life and personal, whatever, you know, and I really enjoy what I do. And it really does. There's a lot of stress that comes with it, obviously. And there's a lot of back end work that comes with, like, admin stuff. But in order to have the existence that I want to have, and in order to have the output that I want to have, these are necessary. There's necessary evils, you know. So with that influx of stuff that came up, and with the influx of things to do and to drive the vision forward, it's like, like I said at the start, I didn't have to do this. I could have said, no, we're just going to keep it pretty small and chill, just chuffing along. I was like, no, we can actually help everybody in this situation. With that is when I was like, all right, awesome. I need to, really get onto the discipline side of things. I really need to take that to the next level so I can really focus for us. Now, it really is an us thing. When you've got, you know, staff who rely on the income to support families or to support themselves or whatever, there's a lot of responsibility there. I feel a lot of responsibility to support that, you know. So it's great. Like, it's really, really good. It's really, really good. So yeah, so that's there's a brief rundown of what I've been up to.
Yeah, a brief and episode long version of a rundown. But I mean, with all that in mind, like, because there's always something next with you, as I've learned. I mean, obviously, I knew about the physio side of things like a while ago, like when you were starting to think about, oh, this is like what we're going to do. Like, what evolves from physio? Like, what's next? Is it like, are we talking a bigger space? Are we talking nutrition, mentoring? Like, we've spoken about, like, you know, how cool it would be to have literally everything in the one. Like, are you looking to, obviously not right now, but in the future, is that kind of like what are you still aspiring to, just more, keep building, keep developing? Because I mean, that's how I've known you as, like, what, you know, you're evolving still. What's next?
I'm emerging from the chrysalis. That's what's next. And as the emergent chrysali, I have no idea what I'm going to turn into. No. So you knew about physio in what, 2017, 2018, like a year before I think we set it up, you know. And we've had this discussion before about goals and moving towards things. And so at this stage, the focus is really just ensuring that we are providing the best sort of service, and we are able to have some really good operations. You know, it has been really challenging having the integration when physios aren't really known in their industry to be able to have to communicate, and in what way to communicate, and then how we communicate that to clientele, that sort of circle. Yeah. And so really ensuring that our clientele are getting the best support, and the operations of the system are working really, really well. It's really, as far as I'm looking at this stage, it's probably, I would say from where we're at, maybe 6 months to a year to really get things like just smooth, super, super smooth. And obviously having a website is going to help with bringing more people in and sharing our message with more people, so honestly, that's really as far as I'm looking. It would be really good to be able to have everything, or it'd be really good to have things in the space that are going to provide people the support and the care that they need. The idea has always been to have each clientele feel like they've got a team around them that supports them. Reason being, and the reason I say this is, most gym spaces or most coaches or most physios or whatever your allied health professional of choice is, as a client, you tend to have one-on-one. You have one PT, you have one coach, or you have one physio, and they're the person you rely on for your support. Now, that's all well and good, but what if that physio leaves? What if that PT quits the industry, or they go somewhere else, and all of a sudden you're left with no support? What I really wanted to do is bring in a system that one person feels like, and has, not just feels like, but has a support network of all of our 9 staff, and that could be 20 staff, or that could be 3 staff, or whatever the numbers are. But that person feels like, oh, my physio is checking in on me, and then I hear from my coach, and then I'm in the gym, and then I've got the therapist asking me, oh, how am I feeling after my massage last week? And then that reports back, and then I tell something to my physio, but then my trainer messages me and says, oh, hey, I heard you did your ankle on the weekend, what's the go? All these things, and you feel like you're carried along a lot easier through your return to sport, return to life, return to training situation. And that's kind of the idea now. So we really want to have that team together. Now, what are the next members of that team from a professional sense? We don't know. It depends on what our clientele come in and what they say they might want, or where there's a need. If we can fulfill that need, then we'll absolutely fulfill that need. Whereas right now, it's like, let's make sure that you're sorted as best as we can. But now you've got the team around you. Let's take you to the next level, and then we'll see what happens. But that's
Sick. Well, it's about to cut out, but thank you once again for tuning into another episode of The Best of the Mess. There is more mess to come, for sure.
Much more mess.
Much more mess.
See you, friends.
Bye.